When she does something wrong and I catch her, she'll go like this. Her neck really low. And of course, that's a sure sign of guilt, right? And kids do that too. They look around before and after they do something that they know they're not supposed to do. And another way of finding happiness internally, of finding everything that you need inside of you rather than outside from other people or just outside in the world, externals, is to also find responsibility there. So your responsibility is not to anyone or anything outside of you, but inside of you. Because we often have this idea, like animals do, or like children sometimes do, that if no one saw it, it's fine. If we didn't get caught, it's okay. And this is another thing that philosophy teaches us. It teaches us that the judge inside of us, constantly watching, because it's us, it's within us. Whatever we see, whatever we hear in philosophy and Stoicism, this inner divinity, this being, also sees. Of course, when we say being and God and divinity and all these things, we mean reason. The part of ourselves that is not the body, that is not the animal. Sometimes referred to as the soul, sometimes referred to as, the reason within us, or the intellect. And as humans, we have this gift. Animals do not. Animals operate purely on instinct, and that's how they evolved. They're born with it. Of course, instinct has its own advantages. You do not need to be taught. You do not need to learn. You do not need to make mistakes and come up with it yourself and invent things, invent behavior, which is actually crucial for your survival. You don't have to do any of that. You're born with it. There's a very strong voice within you that tells you exactly what to do and how to do it and when to do it. And of course, the downside of that is that you could not go beyond that. She could not go beyond that. Not much anyway. And with humans, it's almost the opposite. We have very little instinct because we're actually born premature. We're actually born maybe a quarter of our development. Most of our development, most of our growth, our brain growth, takes place outside of the body, outside of the mother's body, outside of the womb. Our brains triple in size once we're born. And we're taught everything that we need to know. We're completely attritional, it's called. It's the opposite of maturity. We're completely dependent, helpless for many years. That's the disadvantage. But of course, the advantage is that we can go much beyond. We have accumulated knowledge over generations, inventions, discoveries, and ideas that were developed over generations, over tens of thousands of years. And that accumulates and brings us to where we are today, making fire. No other animal on planet Earth is able to control fire. And of course, me speaking to you, you hearing me, yet in so many areas of our lives, we do not use it, not to its fullest extent. And that brings with it the issue of responsibility. Animals are not so much responsible for their actions because it's all instinct. You know what one is going to do. You pretty much know what all of them are going to do. It's programmed into them. But such things as guilt and motive and planning and premeditation is the gift of humans, and also brings with it, like we said, a lot of responsibilities. It brings with it the responsibility of just action, of not committing wrongs, of knowing what we're doing and therefore being responsible for our actions. So when you see yourself looking around, either before or after you do something that you know is wrong, you're acting more like your dog, like your animals, or like children who have not been taught, who have not been made aware of this divinity, this reason, this unique intellect that they possess as human beings, as the most intelligent beings on earth. And that simply is selling yourself short, and it's not living according to your particular nature as a human being who is capable and responsible for these things. Like we said, everything that is truly good and truly bad, meaning everything that is morally good and morally bad, is within us, and we are responsible for it, and they cannot happen without our particular consent and will to do so. What does it matter if no one saw you did something wrong? You saw it, you heard it, you were there, you witnessed it. Get yourself to a point where you don't even look around, where you know that what has happened and the consequences of it, and to take responsibility and to say, this has been done, I did this, and from that follows that I take responsibility for it. There is no other way to satisfy this judge within you. This judge is the harshest one, and it's the most accurate one, and it's also the most just one, because other people can see what they think they saw, and that might be correct or not. In some situations, not. And this, again, as harsh as it sounds, as strict as it sounds, and this judge within us, like we said, is the strictest judge that we can possibly have. But it, again, as does everything else in philosophy and everything else that we find in ourselves, it also frees us. It's part of our freedom, because we used to look around to make sure that no one saw it. All of that falls away. We know exactly what happened, and that's all that matters. We don't need those faulty judges anymore, those faulty senses. We can trust the one within, the one that is most accurate. That's freedom, and that is satisfaction of that unique mode of being that we are privileged to, and again, responsible for as humans. So stop looking over your shoulder. That's one of the big ideas in the kind of philosophy that we see in the golden age of philosophy, of ancient Greek philosophy. Everything is to be found within, including this. And yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to even admit to oneself of having done wrong. And this doesn't mean that if you've done wrong and you did look over your shoulder and you saw that no one saw you and you just moved on without taking responsibility, that you now have to act like that forever. Philosophy is also, and that judge within you, is also very forgiving. As harsh as that judge is, the judge does allow you to come back time and time again and to try again to be better, because in the long run, that's all that matters, that we become better, as best as we can become, not to this or that standard, but truly, honestly, the best that we could possibly be. You do need to learn to forgive yourself. That's why try time and time again. Don't make the past one an excuse to give up and to feel bad, feel like a bad person, and to judge yourself in some sort of a permanent condition. Philosophy is falling and getting back up again, but also not getting used to falling, not going into it a next try with the intention or the allowance to oneself to fail again, but to give everything, to give your best try, to learn from the past and to try it again with the most honest and strongest attitude that you can possibly come up with. And if you then still fail, the most important thing at that point becomes simply to try again. And one day you will succeed, and then you will fail again, but you will succeed more and more often until hopefully you almost never fail again. And that's okay. It's about self-betterment. It's not about punishment. It's not about keeping score. It's simply about improving. And there are a couple of quotes, one from Epictetus and one from our best friend Marcus Aurelius, that talk about this. He says, "You will suffer the injury of not having done what you ought to do. You'll destroy the man of good faith in you, the man of honor, the man of moderation. You need look for no greater injuries than that." And that's again it. Forget the law, forget criminal justice. by not taking this responsibility, it's not about satisfying others again, like we just talked. It's about satisfying yourself. You want to be a just man, a good man, a proper man, person, of course. That is the most precious thing you can possibly have, and you will destroy that by the continued actions of this kind. And that's what Epictetus points out. And Marcus Aurelius also talks about this. He has a quote: "The time you have left is short. Live it as if you were on a mountain. Here or there makes no difference. If wherever you live, you take the world as your city. Let men see, let them observe a true man living in accordance with nature. If they cannot bear him, let them kill him. A better fate than a life like theirs." Here again, since your inner divinity, the judge, or your reason, your mind, sees everything you do in the first place, it's the same as living on a mountaintop where everyone can see you, because the most important being is always with you anyway. What are the others? What are the opinions of others in comparison to that? It's nothing. They might as well be with you as well all the time too. And that's also what philosophy is supposed to be. That's what it's to live like you're watching. It's to live like you want to be a certain person and you don't want to disappoint the one person that matters, which is you, and the best part of you, not the bodily animal, the anima part of yourself, but the mind, the reason, the unique intellect of this planet that you are trying to satisfy and to live up to and to conform to and to live in accordance with. So think about these things a little bit. I'll think about why I wanted to sit right next to a smoky fire and read some Marcus Aurelius. He is particularly good at keeping that standard for yourself up, because the Meditations, his life's work, was written exactly for that purpose, for himself, for the one person who matters, to keep himself, I suppose, motivated, to keep himself up to that standard and to satisfy his inner divinity. And that's exactly what they did for him and what they do for us. So I suggest you take a look at that and to read a little bit of it every day, not much, a little bit. It needs to sink in. He's one of the greats. He's one of the dailies. He's one of the ones that you should be always reading, always have with you in your mind and in physical form as much as you can.